So this is just a daily reminder for me to put Jesus first. So I sometimes get asked about this glorious number here, my beard. Why on earth do you have it? It's a bit unusual. It used to be a lot more unusual. Do you remember back before that fateful Movember in 2010 something teen, where, you know, this is my theory anyway, when the beards got popular, so many people were doing the Movember thing, and then they didn't mow after Movember was over, and they just all kept their beards because they loved it. And suddenly, all over the globe, beards were super popular. Now, prior to that, they were not. Mostly, especially when any women would be honest with me, they would be like, you know, why have you got the beard? Especially older ladies. It was really, really funny. We went into any old folks' homes, and then they would just, you know, they're past caring at that point, what people think. So they're like, yeah, you need to lose the beard. I'm like, that's exactly why I'm going to keep it. So why on earth would you have the beard? It's very good for cleaning, you know, dusting. If you've got, they get a lot of dust in friaries because we don't have carpets on the floor. So you notice all the dust. So, you know, it's very handy for that. Like a teddy bear, you know, we don't have teddy bears. So then, you know, if you have trouble sleeping at night, no, it's not what we have. Okay, so beard is part of our tradition as Franciscans. St. Francis, a big thing for him was to be like a living icon of Jesus, to look like Jesus. So he wanted to dress like Jesus, he wanted to act like Jesus, he wanted to think like Jesus. He totally wanted to be like Jesus. So that's part of what the habit is. It is to be a visible sign to those around you that you are living for Jesus. Not in a blow your trumpet sort of way, am I amazing, but rather in a, no, it's really important that I disappear and Jesus appear, or Jesus shine through me. And this is just, the habit is kind of a visible showing of that. So too the beard. St. Francis had a beard, and it was kind of encouraged, although it wasn't in the early rule of St. Francis. In our own rule as Franciscans of the Renewal, it is, again, it's not mandated, but it is mentioned and it's encouraged, the wearing of a simple beard. So no like super fancy, you know, sculpting, beard balm and all that stuff. No, we kind of keep it pretty simple. In fact, so simple, usually to cut it, I just grab mine and I snip. That's what I do. That's why it's got this weird design. You probably don't need to know that. So you could sometimes see a friar that doesn't have a beard, and that's okay because it's only encouraged. It's not mandated. But what does this mean? For me, what does it mean? Why do I particularly go for a really big one? There's the doorbell. You might hear that. So for me, there is a personal reason why I do have a beard. And it kind of goes back to my years as a teenager when I was in secondary school. And I was just very focused on how I looked. And not in like a, well, kind of in a vain way. So sometimes for sure in a vain way, but also in a like, you know, the way sometimes if you have like a vain thing, you're worried about how you look, it also goes, it goes into that worry of how you look. So I was like really, really stressed about if I ever didn't look as good as I could. I need some water, and the doorbell is still ringing. So in school, just really stressed about how I looked. And this sort of continued, and towards the end of secondary school is when I had my conversion, my experience of God, and I wanted to make a shift, make a change. And a big thing that came up for me was about letting go of my care and concern about how I looked. Now, at the time, I had really long curly hair, and, you know, I was given all this and loads of time and investment and stress and all the rest. And I went to Mass. I used to go to Mass every day. Just before my conversion, I started that, and after it, continued it pretty much every day since then. And one day, one of the readings was from the Acts of the Apostles, and it was about St. Paul, and it said he arrived in some place and he shaved his hair off because of a vow he had made. I was like, you what? I'd never heard this before. I'd never heard of it. So it's actually a Jewish tradition that goes back to, I think, Leviticus, where they talk about Nazarites and making a Nazarite vow. The idea was you would consecrate a period of time to God, and at the start of it you would shave your hair off, and then whatever hair grew during, let's say, a year, at the end of that year you would shave it off, and then you would offer it as a burnt sacrifice. You would offer it to God as a sign of like giving all of that time to God. Anyway, that's the background. But for me, it was this like, oh my gosh. It was this call, this personal call. It's like, you need to lose the hair. Not because hair is bad, not because it's bad to look good, but because I was more attached to my hair than I was attached to God. So I decided there and then, with much weeping and gnashing of teeth, I needed to lose the hair. So actually I did a sponsored haircut because I was so incredibly vain. I figured people had to pay me to cut my hair, and I used it to fundraise to do a mission trip to go to Africa that summer. This all just serves to say that I really struggled, and in many ways still struggle, with vanity. So the beard is actually to help balance that out. And I realized, well, it's not, oh, okay, it's a little bit trendy now, but the idea is that it's not super trendy. It's not exactly the way I would dress or look if I wasn't a friar. Just to remind myself that what's on the outside is not the most important. It's what's on the inside. It's about being like Jesus in your heart, in your mind, in your intentions, in your motives. Yeah, so this is just a daily reminder for me to put Jesus first.